Welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I am the guy who picked Ken Shamrock to defeat Rich Franklin. And I'm here to talk about Brandon Royval versus Mateus Nicolau. Brandon Royval is the most exciting fighter, maybe in the world, certainly in the flyweight division. This guy's just fucking wild. He is must-watch television, in my opinion. If you were to ask me who I'd want to watch fight out of any UFC fighter, I might say Brandon Royval. He's certainly one of the top candidates. And I think any one of his fights could headline a fight night event, just based on excitement alone. Certainly this matchup against Mateus Nicolau, who is 4-0 in the UFC since making his return. And that was after a 3-1 stretch the first time. He's 7-1 total in the UFC, and he's beaten some really good guys, especially this stretch. Taking out David Dvorak, Matt Schnell, Manel Kopp, which was a close decision. You know, you could argue certainly that he lost that fight, and I have, but he was definitely in that fight, and it was a close one. And his two losses come via TKO. One to Pedro Nobre, the guy who Dana White famously called out on faking an injury or a DQ or whatever, looking for a DQ victory many years ago, and then he didn't fight again. But the other one comes to Dustin Ortiz, his one UFC loss. Dustin Ortiz, solid veteran, and that's one of his best victories, only getting better with age. But came over Nicolau, and, it's just an experience thing. But that was many years ago at this point, and Nicolau, he's looked perfect in his second run in the UFC. Again, you could argue he lost that fight, but he's 4-0. And he's beaten some really good competition, and I'm expecting him to neutralize Royval. Nicolau is one of the best neutralizers on the feet or on the ground. He's really patient, kind of sucks you into his type of fight, which I don't know if that's possible with Royval, to be honest. I think Royval is going to create chaos, but Nicolau, I expect to tame him, deal with the chaos and tame Royval, whether it's on the feet or on the ground. Brandon Royval, he's fucking wild. He's really exciting on the feet and on the ground. Better submission artist for sure, I'd say. But on the feet, he's so fucking unorthodox. And he'll catch you with some deceptively long strikes and spinning shit. Weird angles and whatever, Ask Kai Kara France, which is still, I'd say, his best victory. Brandon Royval, but he's got plenty of them already in the UFC. Matt Schnell, Tim Elliott as well. That was a great debut, I believe. He got Tim Elliott out of there with a round 2 sub. So Royval, he's very dangerous even at the highest level, but Nicolau is very solid. He's a very solid grappler, and on the feet, again, even though I've seen him knocked out by Dustin Ortiz, as a striker, I trust Nicolau's basics more than I do the unorthodox techniques of Royval. And on the ground, too, I think Nicolau would neutralize Royval. I don't think he'd be able to go through him like Pantoja. Pantoja neutralized him and then dominated him. I don't see that from Nicolau here. I do think Royval will always be creating opportunities and whatever and working. But in general, Nicolau is going to win this fight with more top control and with better conventional striking, in my opinion. We'll see what happens, but the decision at plus 150 is the only play. Nicolau's money line is minus 210. I don't like that. I think the decision goes Nicolau's favor. Nicolau is 9-0 in decisions. Brandon Royval is 2-4. Much better decision fighter, Nicolau. And I'll take him by decision, plus 150. Like, share, subscribe, all that horseshit. Check out my other videos.